The Edmonton Oilers have written themselves into the history book by one of the largest margins of victory in NHL Stanley Cup history. But is it enough for them to also write their names into the history books as one of the only teams to come back from an 0-3 deficit? We'll get all into that next here on The Crease. Welcome into The Crease. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button right now. Get it out of the way, man. Don't wait till the end of the video. We're going to do it right now. Also, big shout out to one of our affiliates, and that is Vivid Seats. If you are a huge fan and you are in the Florida area, hell, if you're not in the Florida area, get your ass down there. Use Vivid Seats. Get a ticket to Panthers Oilers Game 5. Or if you're in Boston tonight, well, if it goes on to Game 6, which it might, you can go there in Dallas, see them live, or buy tickets for Game 7, however it may be. Plus, baseball's going on right now. Go to vividseats.com. The link will be in the description to help support the house call. You can use our link and go live vividly now. Edmonton finally woke up, gentlemen, but was it too little too late? You know, I mean, Florida could have just kind of put the coasters on and said, hey, what better place to win than in front of our own fans? Either way, they absolutely got dominated. Bobrovsky was completely outdone. It was one of the worst Panthers games I've seen. This kind of reminded me of Game 1 against Boston, where they kind of just got ran off the ice. And yet, the doubt's there. It's creeping in for some people. Can Edmonton make a run? Did they figure out the Panthers' defense?
Can they not?
And if so, or not. Either way, we're about to find out. We're going to dive into it. Obviously, I thought this was a sweep. I thought this was a done deal. Gage kept stuck to his horses, said Panthers in 5. At the end of the day, we will find out tonight, which is Tuesday for everybody out there. We will find out. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and do a little recap, little look back at Game 4. And Ian, I'm going to start with you. What was different for Edmonton in this game comparatively to how they played, games 1 through 3?
To be honest, I didn't think there was much difference with how Edmonton played. They kind of just came out and played their game. I think the difference was Bobrovsky played awful, and the Panthers didn't look like themselves. So I think the Oilers, when they play their game, this is what they're capable of. And on the flip side of that, when the Panthers don't play their game, this is what they're capable of giving up. So I really don't think it's any adjustments Edmonton made. I think it was just a matter of the Panthers were awful in Game 4. I don't expect that to happen in Game 5, but it's the Stanley Cup final and anything can happen. Crossing my fingers that the Panthers bounce back going home because y'all know I hate the Oilers for obvious reasons. But we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I don't think I saw anything necessarily different about how Edmonton played. I think Florida was just terrible.
I mean, yeah, it's the way it looks. They didn't really face a lot of shots in this game. And Edmonton just scored at will, which we've seen them be capable of doing. And just to put this out there, I'm not saying it's going to happen in Game 5, but Edmonton has scored more goals every single game as this series has gone on. They didn't score a single one in Game 1. They scored 1 in Game 2, 3 in Game 3, and now they've scored 8 in Game 4, which was twice as many as they scored in the first 3 games combined. So if that holds true, we could easily see them score, they should be scoring 12 in Game 5. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's ever happened in hockey. If I saw 12 goals in a hockey game, I'd have major questions, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals, of why the opposite team is even on the ice, allowed to exist in the first place. But Edmonton has slowly but surely been kind of getting into their groove against this Florida defense. They, like I said, 0-3 Game 1, 1-4 Game 2, 3-4 Game 3, and then 8-1 Game 4. So you kind of see this sort of Edmonton finding its groove and how they are going to attack this Florida Panthers defense. And so, Gage, I'll go to you. You called Florida in 5. Are you concerned by this trend of Edmonton starting to find their offense going up against this Florida defense the further the series goes on?
Not at all. I think it's pretty safe in 5. They were playing in Edmonton in front of home fans, so you'd expect the team to play better with their backs against the wall, do or die. And same thing, mirroring the NBA. Celtics are clearly the better team. Clearly had an off night, an away game, and are just going to win it at home. That's
what you would hope.
I don't know if teams just are taking it off so they win it at home and don't get the sweep, because it just looks like both teams just took it off that were ahead 3-0. I think Florida was like, okay, we don't like. There's no stress, there's no urgency, and they rest. I think they rested. I think they just. It was clear from the get-go Bob was going to have an off night, and they just settled for it. So I think they're going to come out home ice game 5 and put it away. I don't think it's going to be close. I don't. I think Edmonton will put a lot of shots on net, but I don't think they'll have value shots.
So we are hearing right now from both Ian and Gage that the 2024 Edmonton Oilers will not be joining the 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs as the only teams to come back from an 0-3 deficit to win the Stanley Cup. That's what we're hearing right now from the panel. Now, listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen. 1942 was a long time ago, and that's the only team that's ever done it. All right?
Ironically enough, it was the Leafs.
Yeah, and ironically enough, it was the Leafs. Funny how that works out based on the Leafs' current history of playoff runs. However, the trend is still there. This is, and you say, their backs are against the wall against home fans. You gave them life. The minute you allow them to play, and they start getting, that sniff, just a whiff of a possibility that they might be able to make this a series. That's a problem. And so Florida really has to come out in game 5 from the puck drop and dominate. This needs to be an absolute domination in the first period to just break Edmonton's will right off the bat. Because if you let Draisaitl and McDavid and these guys hang around, they can make this a series. And the more this series goes, the more hope Edmonton has, the grittier they play, and the more the doubt creeps in the back of your mind. I had the same conversation. You brought up the NBA Finals. I have the same doubts about Boston. If you don't win game 5, you're almost guaranteed to go to 7. Like 6 is not, the series will not end in 6. That's how this is going to go. Everyone here wants this in 5 because it means Florida wins. You both, obviously Gage had Florida from a long time ago in Edmonton. He picked that months ago. Ian, obviously, he's still salty that his Stars choked in the Western Conference Finals.
Absolutely.
Against the Oilers, so he's holding some resentment there.
And I'd love nothing more than to see Leon Draisaitl crying at the ice in Sunrise at the end of the game 5.
Exactly. But, the longer this goes, there's a possibility. And, Gage, you brought up a good point that I want to talk about. Is it possible, and this is going to be for the panel, I'll let Gage go for it first since this was his point, are teams more inclined to win in front of their home fans instead of going for a sweep? Does that mean more for them to win at home than sweeping their opponent? For me personally, as an athlete, I would want to win. Losing is never something that I condone, because if you are accepting of a loss because you're like, I wanted to win in front of my home fans anyway, that mentality breeds complacency, and complacency gets you beat. And so I don't buy into the fact that people are, the teams are selling a game so they can win in front of their home fans. I think if you were to ask any player on Florida, they want the sweep. Now, was it in the back of their mind that they have this cushion and that's what allowed Edmonton to get the edge? I would buy that in a sort of subconscious understanding of it, to where you don't really need to try as hard. But still, that's a dangerous way to play. That is a lack of killer mentality that I think a lot of teams in this age suffer from. We've seen it multiple times, right? Like you think of the Atlanta Falcons when they were up big on the Patriots in that greatest Super Bowl comeback of all time, the first overtime game in Super Bowl history. They had celebrities on the line right before the half. Everything was going their way. Lacked killer mentality, lacked focus, caved. We've seen the Celtics do it multiple times in playoffs, where they've kind of played with their food, got complacent, allowed teams back into games and back into series they shouldn't have. We've seen it in hockey. We've seen teams allow other teams to get themselves back in it. Boston specifically. Last year, Boston was up on the Florida Panthers 3-1. Blew it. This is a situation where you kind of saw it in Boston in that series where the first 4 games, Boston dominated. They came out and just punched the Panthers in the face, and then it seemed they got a little bit complacent with like, oh, we got game 5. Oh, we got game 6. All of a sudden, game 7's there, and you got to focus in, and you haven't focused in 2 games. You had this idea, you had an extra one, and suddenly you don't have any extra ones anymore. And the problem is you've given the other team hope. So, Gage, I'll start with you. Are you buying that the Florida won in front of their home fans, or is this something closer to like just they just didn't play? They had a bad game.
I see. This is where I think it's yes. If you ask an athlete, you don't want to give the team a glimmer of hope or let them back in the series.
Crush them.
But at a certain point as an athlete, if you see the game not going your way, or you're like, okay, we have enough leeway. We don't need this. We can take a couple minutes off. We can take plays off. We can rest. And I'm not a professional athlete. I can't say the lot like they're not going to have. We can get back into this. Let's chill. Give it everything. But it's got to be in the head, and it's got to be as someone watching it. You're like, okay, well, they get a shot at it in front of their home crowd now, so they can. The team makes more money, they sell more tickets, and have a great atmosphere to win a championship in. So you can't say it's not a possibility. You can't look at a deadpan either way, and say, oh no, they wouldn't do that. I mean, come on, yeah, you would.
It's a dangerous game to play, though.
Oh, 100%. But if you're up 3-0,
it's hard to not get complacent.
If you're behind a game by, say, 40-something points at halftime, or 5 goals.
Oh yeah.
What's really there? What's really there?
You just can't let it carry over. I think it's the big thing if that happens.
Yeah. You can't be complicit at the start of a game, for sure. But if you're, I do think if it's game 4, up 3-0, and you're down an outrageous amount, I do think that, all right, well, next time we'll win it in front of the fans and just kind of coast out the game.
I mean, that's a fair assumption. I think that's a fair way to look at it. And at the end of the day, you kind of got to look at how they played this game. They got 33 shots on goal.
I'd be remiss if I don't say this. To quote the great Herm Edwards, you played to win the game. You played to win the game.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. One of the very famous Herm Edwards line there. I almost feel like he must have been wearing a Jets quarter zip at that point in time.
He was.
But I mean, Ian, to you on this one, do you think that teams are doing this, or they're avoiding the sweep so they can win at home in front of their home crowd? And how dangerous is that of a gamble to play in a situation where you also allow your team to find the team you're going against to find a rhythm and possibly find some things they can carry over into another game, and suddenly this just gets really significantly closer?
I don't buy it. I don't think it was a case of Florida's throwing a game to win in 5, because like you said, that's a dangerous game, as these guys are elite athletes and they know better than anybody else. You have to go in and you have to crush the head. You have to put the dagger in the throat. You have to win that game. I don't think it was so much I don't think it was so much Florida's going to throw the game as it was Edmonton came out and played with desperation. And Florida got lackadaisical and allowed Edmonton's desperation to overwhelm them early, which is why they lost. I also think in professional sports, it is very difficult to win 4 straight. Edmonton is desperate, and maybe that's a kick in the rear to the Panthers to tell them to wake up. We have a job to do. Like Kobe said, job's not finished. The job is not finished until you win 4 games, until the clock hits 0. And if you're the Panthers coming back home, I think it'll be easier to play in front of your home fans. It always should be. And you need to come in with the mentality that this job is not done until the clock strikes 0 and we have more goals than the Edmonton Oilers. So for the Panthers, I think it's convenient that they get to come home. I think it's more convenient than they planned it, which I think that was the case for Tampa Bay in 2021 against Montreal. They did not sweep the Canadiens, even though they very well could have. It's just tough to beat a team 4 straight times. And who knows, maybe Edmonton's out of gas in game. I don't know. I can't make that assumption. I'm not on that team. But I think Game 5 is crucial for the Panthers. It's just as crucial for the Panthers as it is the Oilers. Because if you don't avoid at all costs. And to your credit, Joe, if they really were playing that game, let's say they were, that's a very dangerous game to play. Because now you've fallen into the mindset of, oh, we can buy another game. No, you can't. This is the stand last one. So for the Panthers, they have to attack the Oilers with reckless abandon. They've got to be relentless until the clock strikes 0. And hopefully at the end of it, they're hoisting the cup.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the dot. I don't think anyone actually plays with the mindset that they're going to, let a team get back into a game. That doesn't make sense for anybody, right? However, we have seen it time and time again where a closeout game 4 comes around, and for whatever reason, the team's not ready for the moment. They're not ready to put that final touch on it that first time around. And it kind of seems like that, it just opens up a dangerous door, whether it's mentality, whether it's, lackadaisicalness, they're taking a game off because they know they have a little bit of breathing room, they're more relaxed, or they're just not as focused, whatever it may be. But even then, it's very difficult for teams to close out, like you said, win 4 in a row. I mean, the NHL has been around since like 1917, right? In that time, there have only been 20 sweeps in the Stanley Cup final. All right? Over 100 years of hockey, 107 to be exact, 20 sweeps. That is under 20%. That tells you everything you need to know about how difficult it is at this level to sweep an opponent. That being said, I was so convinced in how Florida had played the first 3 games that they could do it. And then Game 4 happened. And much like Gage pointed out with the NBA Finals in Game 4, it was an absolute embarrassment of a team that had dominated up to this point. I look at that a little bit at Florida from the point of inexperience in the situation. There's Florida doesn't have any Stanley Cups. A lot of these guys, their first Stanley Cup experience happened last year. They're fighting through all of this, doing it for the first time. It is very difficult to have that killer mentality. You mentioned earlier the Kobe mentality, the killer mentality, that and it goes across multiple sports. The Mamba mentality has shown its head, been quoted by multiple athletes across multiple sports many a time. And because it's very easy to go out there and play your game and win, it's very difficult to go out there and play your game at a high level consistently in a situation where, the jitters are getting to you, the nervousness is getting to you, you're getting that pit in your stomach, it's a lot of pressure, because at this point, sure, you've won 3 in a row, you're up big, but this is a different monster. It's almost like you're back at 0-0 again when you come to a closeout game sometimes. You haven't been there before. It is a hard step to get over. Do I think Florida wins in 5? Yes. Do I see a glimmer of hope in Edmonton? Absolutely. And so I'm going to give my predictions first, and then I'm going to kick it back to you, Ian, for yours, and then we'll go to Gage. I think that Bobrovsky gets back on track, continues his Conn Smythe campaign. However, I do think Edmonton keeps this game close. I'm going to say this is going to be a 2-1 game. It's going to be the lowest scoring game in the finals. And the Panthers are going to win this game with a last-minute goal going to say under 5 minutes left in the third, they're going to score their second goal to go up 1. And even with Stuart Skinner pulled late in the third, Edmonton cannot even it up. Florida wins Game 5, 2-1. They are first-time NHL Stanley Cup champions. Ian, what do you got?
I'm going to say Florida wins in 5. I'm going to say it's a 3-2 game that ends in overtime off of for poetic justice, a Matthew Tkachuk redirection off of a Gustav Forsling shot pass. The Panthers will win 3-2 in overtime off a Matthew Tkachuk redirect or a Sam Bennett redirect, just because those two are former Flames, and I'd love to see it. I do think this game has a very real possibility, though, to end 3-2 in overtime off of anybody. Of course, it's hockey. Shoot, if Ryan Longberg came back into the lineup for Florida, he could score. But I think it'll be a 3-2 game, OT winner. Panthers win the cup, win their first at home in front of their fans.
And Gage, I don't even need to ask you what's going to happen. It's in the name you got up there right now, buddy. But give me a score prediction at least.
5-1 Panthers.
Damn. not giving Edmonton anything, man. This is going to be
I'll go 5-2. I'll go 5-2.
5-2. Okay. Well, at least you're going to make it at least somewhat respectable. Shit.
No, I truly think it's going to be a dominant game for Florida.
Well, only time will tell. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. Be sure to tune in later today for Game 5, Panthers, Oilers on ABC. You will not want to miss it. If you haven't got your tickets yet, go to Vivid Seats. The link will be in the description of this video. Get yourself some tickets. Be sure to hop in the comments of this video. Let us know how you think this game is going to end, how it's going to go, the score predictions, everything like that. And we'll see you next time here on the Crease.